All right, good afternoon. Kevin Lawrence here. We're here today for the 53-minute master plan webinar. Really looking forward to this today. Should be a lot of fun. Just as a reminder, if you don't have the PDF that Janice sent out, make sure you get a copy of that with the master plan tools. It's also available on the website, but we'll be walking through some of those tools today. It'll make it a lot easier for you if you have that in front of you. So we're going to jump right in. And a great quote, from my book. There's no in between with leadership. Either it slowly destroys your life, or it forces you to get stronger. And that's the great thing about the challenges that we're working on in our world. And today we're going to talk about some of the things that allow you to stay stronger when it gets weird, being the master plan. And one of my thoughts that I've been obsessed with over the last while is this question of how some of these high-performing leaders thrive, while others end up living a nightmare. And you hear about these amazing people. And, just, a year ago, Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade both ended their life in the same week, which was shocking. Two amazingly successful people, but they ended up living a nightmare. And, I have my own beliefs and philosophies about that we've learned. And obviously you can read more about that in the book. The main principle is we have this thing called work and this thing called life. And people think about work-life balance. Well, it's a flawed concept, because in the middle is you. And you need this self, and you got to take good care of yourself. Unfortunately, we get lost along the way. And often when things get busy, we take the hit and we get squished out more and more because of the priorities we're committed to in our work and life. And next thing you know, your commitment exceeds your capability and you get squished out, and you wonder why you get burnt out and your brain gets weird and things go crazy. And we need to continually recalibrate to make sure this doesn't happen to us, which is what this master plan is about today. And we don't want to finally get to the point where that straw breaks the camel's back and we implode. And unfortunately, as some of you have heard from me, I've seen it happen to a lot of people, and we don't want that experience for ourselves, although it will happen from time to time. It's part of the human experience. And there's Yerkes-Dodson Law that really helps us to understand, and what happens is this combination of stress and performance. And stress is good. Like, stress helps us perform and be our best. It's just, and if we don't have enough of it, as you can see here, not enough of it, you get this, boredom or lack of interest, and you get to the peak performance where we have the right amount of it where we perform. And then if we get too much of it, it drops into the strong anxiety and a complete meltdown. So for us to keep pushing ourselves, we have to keep managing, trying to stay in that sweet spot of optimal performance. Unfortunately, it's not always predictable. And that's where I come back to. We got to figure out that 10 or 15 or 20% of our best energy that goes to ourself, so that when we're in that crazy place, we have enough strength and stamina to push through and not succumb to it. So that's why the book, The 17 Habits, that are developed from all the conversations I've had with high-performing leaders and the things that we talk about to get them to recover from those situations that tend to break them down or make it harder than it should be. If you haven't read the book, the chapters are straightforward, easy to read. If you haven't done the assessment from the book, oxygenassessment.com, free assessment, helps you rate yourself on the 17 habits and then gives you guidance about what you can do about it. There's videos and other resources that it points you to, oxygenassessment.com, if you haven't yet. So just a quick thing about us. Like our purpose in our company and my passion is to help leaders to have it all. We do amazing things in our world, but we should also be able to have a great life too. So success at work and a rewarding life. As a key contributor to a book called Scaling Up, which is a framework for scaling the business. And then the Oxygen Mask is about scaling and driving yourself to this next level of performance and enjoying it too. So kind of the business side and then the personal side. And our approach for the company is that, we need to have a more capable CEO and senior leader all the time. And within the company, stronger leaders and better strategy. That's kind of the way we break down our work. Scaling Up is about the better strategy, and the company side, stronger leaders, is your Oxygen Mask first. And then for the leader, it's about continually doubling our capabilities so we can handle the additional challenges and stress that comes with it sometimes. And it's a combination of your resilience, what you know, and who you know. And we need to continually work in those three circles. And again, going back to Yerkes-Dodson Law, is doubling our capability is if we want to expand, we need to either increase our capability or decrease our commitment. Most of the people that we work with want to keep growing and increasing their capability, i.e. having more tools and ability to handle more pressure, responsibility, and stress, so they can keep moving that sweet spot to a higher level of performance and responsibility. So a little bit of myself, if you're not familiar, again, I talked about scaling up and and your oxygen mask first. You know, articles have been featured in Inc. and Forbes and lots of other things. You know, speaking recently and continue to for a number of great organizations that help leaders to continue to grow. You know, we've got a great team, Tim, Kristen, Dean, and Michelle locally that work with our clients, plus other great coaches around the world if you need additional support. We know who the best people are and are very picky about who we refer to, but we've got an amazing team that helps in lots of ways. We've got experience all around the globe, and it's pretty exciting working in these different places, but it helps us to understand business and people better working in these different cultures and different environments. Just a side thing on a major event we have coming up, a top grading event with Michelle, who is an unbelievable top grading trainer, facilitator, and consultant. An event in Vancouver that's one of the highest rated events we've ever done. It's spectacular. In October, if you have interest in it for yourself or someone you want to know, but it's a very powerful event to learn how to be masterful at finding top talent. So let's get into what we're here for today. Plan, plan, and plan again is the chapter of the book that we're going to get into. And the main question to start with is, how disciplined are you about planning and replanning for your work, yourself, and your life so that all three of those areas you perform well on? And that's what we'll dig into a bit further. A great quote by good old Zig Ziglar, motivational speaker: "You were born to win, to be a winner. But in order to do that, you've got to plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win." And what we're talking about today is the planning and preparation, because people fall down on this. We often do really well at the work part of it, but in the other areas, sometimes we slip a little bit because we get consumed by work. Or maybe that's just me and the people I work with. Maybe it's different for you. Another great quote from the great Sun Tzu in the book Art of War: "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." And it's not that you don't need to iterate as you're going. You do need to iterate. But if you plan on just showing up and figuring it out, you generally tend to lose. Other people's priorities and issues will dominate it, and you won't get the highest, most valuable things done. So our solution is to have a simple, all-encompassing one-page, what we call master plan, that pulls it all together in one spot. It's very simple. It's just a matter of having the discipline to do it. And here's how you know you need to work on this. You might create elaborate, long-winded plans that you don't reference very often. You aren't consistently achieving the goals that you set out, or you get sidetracked by sudden inspirations or other things, or you overachieve in one area of your life, most likely work, and you're sacrificing too much in other areas, which is the case with most people we work with. So again, maybe you're already good at this, and if you are, phenomenal, let us know what works. But for the rest of us, we always need to sharpen it up. So we have on the bottom of your screen, you can, on the chat there, you can write some notes. I'd love to hear from a few of you. Where do you most likely slip on your goals? Which of yours suffer the most? Work, self, or life? So just take a second there and make a note, and I'll just share what some of the comments are. Is it more likely work, self, or life where you slip on your goals? And there's a note here, Tony, you asked a question about the PDF for the thing. Just look at your email from Janice. Janice and Coach Kevin would have sent that. So I'm hearing self, Janice saying life, Tanya saying self, Kristen saying self, Andrew saying life. Any others, don't worry, I won't use your last name, just use on a first name basis. I know for me, self is where I tend to sacrifice. I'm very committed to my kids and my family, and very committed to my work, and sometimes I'll take a hit personally. You know, I'm not going to get as much sleep as I should this week because of what I've got going on before some holidays. So no matter what it is, we tend to have a weakness. That's why this plan encompasses everything together. So, and people say, well, you know, I wish I had more time. Like, we all wish we had more time. And generally, you know, it's a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit of an excuse. The reality is we've got the gift of time. We just don't use it well. We often throw it away. So the good news is you're here today, and we're actually going to do some of the work on this call and leverage the time you've blocked out here today to make the best use of it. So going back to the root of it, we got to nail that 10% for self, because if we get weak and aren't strong and inspired and resilient, the rest of the things tend to fade because we don't have enough energy to do the other things that we have to do. As a side note, if you don't have, there's a full digital workbook or audiobook that you're welcome to have. And you can email Janice and ask her for those, and she'll send you the links after the call. There is a link on the site you can try. We tested it this morning. There was an issue with it. So if it's not working, lawrenceandco.com/02. If it's not working, email Janice, and she can share those. Those are my gift to you. The joys of a digital world, you can share those things for free. So we're going to jump right into the annual review part of the master plan and help you understand it. But again, the master plan, simple document, breaks it down into work, self, and life, so you'll always think about the 3 key parts of your world. And then once you do the reflection, you actually go and plan out what the future looks like. We call it an annual plan, but it reaches into the rest of your life. And then you plan, okay, great, what am I going to do about it this quarter? This ain't rocket science. And then at the end of the quarter, you reflect on how you did, and then you go back and you reset the goal for the next quarter. And then you do that again for the next quarter and the next quarter until you get to the end of the year and you go back and start the process again. So again, these are basic disciplines. They're not rocket science. The key is that you start off with a big picture plan, zooming into the quarters, and then you go back and fix the big picture plan. And it shouldn't take a ton of time if you do it right. The key is to do it and get it done. And this ain't rocket science. You know, if you look at some of these formulas here, I have no idea what this even says. But it's not rocket science. The key is that we gotta have the discipline to do it. And winning requires the discipline to plan, plan, and plan again. And if you consistently want to win, you have to consistently have the discipline. And the truth is, that's where most people fall down. That's where I fall down when I don't stick to those disciplines. And that's why companies hire us to do their annual planning and quarterly planning for their companies. I just got off a conference call with a company in California we work with, just checking in, doing a monthly check-in on their goals to make sure they're making progress. Basically, we are a consistency crutch to help people to do that. Same with the personal goals. So let's go with the annual review. Have your documents in front of you, and we're gonna spend 60 seconds on each question. And I'm gonna give you time to think. So be prepared to sit here and do the work. You can write on your PDF, you can type on your computer, or you can make notes on paper. Don't care how you do it. Let's go to the first question and just reflect over the last 12 months. In the area of your work, which is where you work and make money or your investments, yourself being things that make you happy, strong, and healthy, you only, and then your life, your friends, your family, community. Which were your biggest wins or achievements in the past year? So take 60 seconds right now and write down whatever comes to mind. And I'm gonna get my timer going. So stream of consciousness, biggest wins or achievements in the past 12 months. If you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A part of the bottom of your screen there, or on the chat, whatever you want. $30 left. Biggest wins or accomplishment, things that fill your heart or fill your ego and your pride, the good part of your ego. What do you feel best about? And if you're not making notes, ask yourself why you're resisting it. Just write down whatever comes to mind. You don't have to share any of this. Okay, great. Next one we want. What were your biggest challenges, frustrations, or disappointments when you look back over the past year? You could look at the last 6 months if you want, but I encourage you to reach a bit farther back. Biggest challenges, frustrations, or disappointments in those 3 areas of your world. Again, if you have any questions, raise your hand or do it in the chat and I can respond to it if you'd like. But this is pretty straightforward. 30 seconds left. Biggest challenges, frustrations, or disappointments. it's good to look at the brutal facts of the downside every once in a while too. Finish up your thoughts there. Next questions. The biggest lesson from your mistakes. There were some learning, some lumps, some oopses along the way. What were the biggest things you learned from those bumps in the road? Biggest insights, lessons. How did you get smarter or stronger? Thirty seconds left. Have some nice thinking music in the background. Make a note for next time. Okay, next question. How did you invest your energy over this past year? This is your passion ratios. What percentage of your best energy went to work? How much went to self? And how much went to life? And then what would have been ideal for you to be your best? How would those ratios ideally have been if you were to recalibrate them? So what percentage you dedicate to each? What would have been ideal in retrospect? Take a second and think about that. Ignore the next question so far. Okay, finish up. So now, take a deep breath. Last question. If you could do the last 12 months over again, what would you do differently? Thinking about your wins, thinking about your challenges, thinking about your learning and your passion ratios. How would you do it differently with what you have just flowed through your mind onto your piece of paper or onto your document there? Think of one or two things in each area that you would do differently. If you could go back in time like Michael J. Fox did in that wonderful movie Back to the Future, what would you do if you could go back in time and do differently to make it an ideal, perfect year? By the way, Pat, great to see you on the call. I haven't seen your name for a while. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so that's the reflection. That's the looking back and getting the insights, because we are very brilliant and brilliant at self-correcting. Now we're going to go to the master plan. And we're going to give you 99 seconds. I might give you slightly longer on these. These take a little bit more thought. So the first thing is, and I'll give you a minute and a half on this, is guiding values. What are your core values or belief systems? Secondly is, what is your sweet spot? Where do you spend ideally 90% of your time in, or 90% of your time doing? And then finally, things that you want nothing to do with, that are on your no list, or won't deal with or won't tolerate list. So I give you a minute and a half. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just get your best ideas you can on each of those things. So guiding values, your core values or principles that you live by. Sweet spot, the place where you do your best work, where you love it and it energizes you. And then won't do or tolerate, it's like, I'm sorry, this does not happen around me, or I just can't put up with this. So write down the best ideas you have in the moment. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is an ongoing document you keep iterating. about halfway there. Values, sweet spot, can't stand list. Or won't tolerate, or just will automatically say, no, thank you. You know what, 15 seconds. Finish up any good thinking that you have there. Now we go to the fun one. The ultimate in your lifetime, by the time you're sitting there taking your last breath, what is the single most important thing you want to achieve for your work, for yourself, and for your life? So just focus on the achieve line, and I'm going to give you 60 seconds on this one. The number one ultimate thing to achieve. Make your life have been worthwhile for you. Single most important thing in each of those areas. We're halfway done. Might hurt your brain a little bit more, but the number one thing to achieve, and go with what your stream of consciousness tells you. You can analyze it later. Perfect. Second is what you want to experience or enjoy. What do you want to feel inside? What is it you want to experience in some way? This is more on the emotional side than the heart side. So what do you want to experience or enjoy? Go ahead and write whatever comes to mind. In each of those areas, your best thinking in the moment. We're halfway there. The ultimate for you to experience or enjoy for work, self, and life. So, and so understand, the achieve piece is like the head success, and we talked about in chapter 1. It's more the head success. And experience and enjoy and remembered for the next one are more the heart success. So the final one, what do you want to be remembered for? What do you want people to think of you or to say about you after you're no longer here? What is it you want to be remembered for? And one thing in each of those areas. Sometimes it might be the same thing in each area. That's okay. But think about those different areas differently. You can blend them together later if that happens to work that way. And for those of you that noticed, yes, I do see the spelling mistake there. We will get that fixed. Another 10 seconds. What do you want to be remembered for? I don't know if you've noticed, but we've made these simple questions that are much easier to answer than what's your purpose and what's your legacy. Although those are brilliant things to get to, this is a simpleton's way into that same door. All right, here's the fun part. We're breaking it down. So twice as good in 3 years. You've thought about where you want to be long-term. Now, in the next 3 years, 3 years from now, what do you want your passion ratio to be? What percentage of your best energy do you want to dedicate to work, self, and life? So take 30 seconds right now and fill that one out. What percentage of your best energy do you want to dedicate to work, self, and life? Considering the reflection that you did when you look back. what do you ideally, now this will be an average. Sometimes it'll be seasonal in different times of the year, but on average, do you want 95% of your energy to work, or do you want 70 or 60 or 50, whatever that happens to be, whatever's appropriate for you. And it's okay if it's a high number. Like I probably put 70% of my energy to work on a regular basis, maybe 65, 70 throughout the year. Sometimes it's 80, sometimes it's 90 in my busiest times. Okay, so now we're gonna go to, ideally we only have one, but many of us end up with two. What is the single most important thing you want to achieve in the next 3 years in work, self, and life? And if you need a second one, that's fine. So I'm gonna give you 90 seconds to think about this. Single most important thing to achieve on those 3 fronts. And if needed, there's room for a second one, but we try and recommend you just have one. And try to make it as tangible as possible. So considering how much of your passion ratio you're allocating to that, what's the ROI you want to get? What's the achievement you want to get for that passion or that energy you're dedicating to that different part of your world? About 30 seconds. Single most important things. All right, let's switch gears. And if you're not getting it all filled in, it's okay. We're running you through a process here. Now it's okay, what do you want to achieve this year? Now, this could be the end of 2019, or it could be June of 2020. You decide. I'd kind of recommend just the end of this year to help you calibrate. So what do you want your passion ratio to be in that time period? What percentage of your best energy do you want to dedicate in those 3 areas? Then again, what's your number 1 goal? And if needed, number 2 goal for the next 6 months or 12 months, however you want to break it down. The things that absolutely matter most, more than all the other 42 things that you might have on the list of stuff you want to do. Again, if you have any questions, just type it into the chat or put it in the Q&A. Happy to answer them. Or you can send a note afterwards. Hey, Nate, good to see you on the call. Same thing, Ivan, great to see you as well. And Kristen, lots of familiar names. And some new ones, which is cool too. Okay. Second left, most important things for this next 6 months, year, whatever you think. So congratulations, we have now completed the master plan. We are now going to go and do the quarter version of it. So we've got the big picture. This is a document you'll come back and iterate over time. Even if it's only 70% accurate, it helps you to funnel down into what matters most. You can come back and edit it again next quarter or next year. It's a starting point. You know, everyone's got a great plan until they get punched in the face, according to the wonderful philosopher Mike Tyson. So these are starting points. That's why we need quarterly versions, and we need to keep tweaking it and iterating it. So now we'll take this thinking into the quarter plan, and we're going to give you a little bit more time because this is where the rubber meets the road. So thinking about this quarter, which is July, August, September, if you use a calendar quarter, what do you want your passion ratios to be? And I'm just going to make a call out here first. Mine change over the summer. In July and August, I'm about 50% between self and life and 50% work. I take 5 weeks off over the summer. Probably it'll be 4.5 this year because of another project I have. But it's okay if it's a little bit different. So first of all, think about your passion ratios for this quarter, and then your number one project. And I'd like you to try and think about the number one, and the second ones are fine. It's like the number one must happen. 2 and 3 are secondary. Ideally, you want them all, but then that becomes 9 projects or 9 goals. It's a bit too much. So try and keep it up into those top 2 boxes. If it spills over, that's okay. All right, so passion ratios, number one projects for the next 90 days. And make these number one projects or goals as tangible and as what we call SMART as possible. We'll get into that in a few minutes, but make them as clear in terms of being an outcome-oriented, what is going to be success in that particular project. Got about 30 seconds left. All right, so you got your passion ratio and your number one project. I'm gonna give you about a minute here to go and think about other things that would be nice to have happen, which would be projects 2 and 3 in any of those areas. If you haven't got there yet, just take a second and think about it. If I can crush number one in each area, what are the secondary things I'd like to see happen? Starting the timer again. Timers really help. So the secondary things that you'd like to see happen. As a side note, when we do this with companies, when we're trying to prioritize what might be more important, on the business side, we would add a monetary value to it, i.e., what is the difference it's going to make to the sales or profitability of the company? On the self side, it's going to be a strength and happiness measure. And on a life side, it could also be a happiness impact or an engagement impact or just quality of relationship impact. Sometimes our goals don't have the impact we think, and if we go and try and quantify it, it tends to help. Okay, so we've got your highest priorities for the quarter, and we're gonna go now and look at toads. Now, toads are little, it's a chapter in the book if you haven't read it, but little nagging things that you procrastinate and put off, and they tend to build up. And they're low strategic value, like they don't make a massive impact in your world. They just bother your brain and tend to weigh you down, and you get reminded about things. And this can be a loose molding on your car or in your bathroom, or a squeaky door, or a computer that doesn't work right, or a book you've got to return, or a book you've got to read, or you've got to update your will, or go to the dentist, or go to the doctor. Oh, dentist, I just remembered dentist. That's mine, actually. I got a dentist I need to do something about. Anyways, so it's these little nagging things that are smaller, but they tend to burn up a lot of bandwidth in the back of your head. Like, you know, for example, I had a guy that I used to work with who his tire used to always leak air in his car. And every day he'd put more air in it before he left work when I worked in a tire shop as a kid. His name was Art. I go, Art, aren't you gonna fix your tire? He goes, no, it's only flat on the bottom. And I'm looking at him and I'm going, what a twisted view. And he was laughing, obviously, but it's these little irritating things that build up mental friction. So what are those things that you're procrastinating that you got to get done in your work, self, and life? Pick the ones that you've been dragging your butt on and thinking about the most, but haven't checked them off your list. You probably don't want to do them, You know, ideally you can delegate them or get somebody else to help you with them. That's usually my solution, because we avoid them for a reason. And that's usually because there's mental strain or stress involved in them, or we're just not good at them. So we're getting down a couple toads in each area. And by the way, if you have 7 of them, you probably have 70 of them. They really, really can burden you and bog you down. The next one, just to make a note of, is what is a habit you want to start? Now, the asterisk there is because often it's a habit out of the book. Which are the 17 habits? It could be one across all of them, but it's basically, what are you going to do to be more effective as a human being? What are you going to start doing, and what are you going to stop doing? So you might have 6 items on those 2 lines, or it just could be 1 item across all of them. So a habit that you'll start and or stop. Things that kind of get in your way. Put down your best thoughts there. Give you about 30 seconds on this. Again, if you're not getting everything filled out, it's okay. We're just grabbing the stream of consciousness stuff and getting you comfortable with the tool and getting you a good start to your plan. Next step. All this thinking and planning is wonderful. You know, strategy is a beautiful thing, but now we got to execute. So what are you actually going to get done this week based on those goals you have for the quarter and the toads and maybe the habit? So I'd like you to write down 3 to 5 action steps you'll take this week. And if it's a toad, for example, it can be that you will call someone to help you do it or delegate it. That's okay. But 5 action steps you'll take this week to get the ball rolling ahead of time. So 3 to 5, I'll give you 90 seconds on this. 3 to 5 actions you can take that'll actually make a difference and help you get the ball rolling. Or, you know, get the ball in the net, i.e. that means that they're finished. Completed off the to-do list. By the way, if one of your toads is a tough conversation, go read that chapter in the book, Tackling Tough Conversations. The 4-step template is simple and spectacular. It works so well. I'm sure none of you have that, but yeah, I think I do. Okay, so just finish up. Actions you can take this week. Got like 45 seconds. Keep working through whatever's in your brain. It's great to see a whole bunch of the medics team on the call as well. And it's awesome. All right. All right, so you got your actions for the week. So I want to talk about SMART goals. And again, this is basics, but everything is basics. Setting goals is basics. Having them in the different areas of your life is a basic. Setting SMART goals is a really key piece, and we tend to mess it up. Most people know the acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. But we want to break it down a bit further to help you test your goals to make sure they're damn smart and you set yourself up for success. So here's an example and the way that we've developed the template. Kristen on my team helped to develop this. This is a really great way to visualize the SMART goals. So basically, let's take a goal and use this grid to double check it. We'll give you a chance to do yours in a minute. So if you had a goal to focus on your health and lose 20 pounds by the end of July, it's a very tangible goal, so it sounds like a good start. Is it specific? Yes, 20 pounds, not just the typical lose weight. Is it measurable? Yes, you could use a scale. Is it achievable? Well, no. Because the end of July is just about 30 days from now. And no matter who you are, to lose 20 pounds in 30 days would be quite unhealthy. It is possible, but it's sure as heck not good for you. Is it relevant? Yes, because maybe your doctor told you need to do it. Is it timely? Well, there's a deadline. But the point of it is it's not achievable. And a lot of us driven people set ourselves up with unachievable goals. So I'll give you another example. To increase our sales by the end of the quarter. Is it specific? No. Is it measurable? No. Is it achievable? Maybe, but we don't even know what it is. Is it relevant? Yes. Is it timely? Yes, but it's not measurable enough. Or sign 7 or more new customers that will spend at least $250,000 by the end of 2019 through partnerships, distributors, and sales promotions. Is that specific? Yes. Measurable? Yes. Achievable? Could be, depending on your business. Relevant? Yes. Timely? Yes. So making it very, very tangible. So what I'd like you to do is to go back to your #1 goals for the quarter and double check that they are SMART and you're setting yourself up to win. So just take, and we'll give you again 90 seconds, go back and take a look at that to make sure it actually is setting yourself up to win. If not, tweak them. And if you have time, you can do the other ones as well. This is a place where a lot of people fail, and then 90 days later, they regret what they committed to. Got about a minute left. Just double check those goals to make sure that they are super strong. It's great. We got people from around the world on the call here today too. We got some people from New Zealand and other parts of the world. It's great to see. All right, so making sure your goals are SMART, you're setting yourself up to win. The last little piece I want to talk about is the weekly planning. It's great to have these goals and breaking it down, but you set yourself up to win on a weekly basis and a daily basis. And again, some of us have amazing habits here, some of us don't, and we kind of fall down and slip on these things. So, you know, it's about setting yourself up for a highly productive week at work, not just at work as well, but in your life and for yourself. So have you heard of Mr. Productivity? Well, let's get turn my lock. Mr. Productivity. Anyone, if you know what, we'll give you a special prize if you know who this guy is. Anyone, and feel free to write it in the chat window there. Anyone know who Mr. Productivity is? That's not actually his last name. It's a very hard question to guess. I'll give you a hint. It's from a book called Think and Grow Rich. And his name is Mr. Ivy Lee. And Mr. Ivy Lee was brought in by Charles Schwab to help him make his executives more effective. And Ivy Lee made, in about 15 minutes, equivalent to $350,000 in today's dollars. He got paid incredibly well. And he went through and investigated Schwab's executives and what they're doing and came back with this solution. And it's so damn simple. Now, I modified it slightly. But his solution was to have his executives, at the end of every day, write down the top 6 things they needed to achieve tomorrow. And that when they came into the office, they worked through them in order until they were done. And at the end of the day, if something wasn't finished, it would continue on to the next day, and they reprioritized the 6 for the next day. It's such a darn simple thing, and in a world of distractions and texts and emails, it's incredibly, or even more relevant today because we can get lost in our day. The only modification I've made is to make the first one a toad. And if you understand the toad concept in the book, it's the ugliest thing you don't want to deal with. Get it done first, so then you're freed up and don't have that cloud over your head to plow through the list that you do for the rest of the day. So my recommendation, what I do is, what are your top 6 for the week as it relates back to your goals, and then the top 6 every single day. It's not rocket science. It's a basic discipline. But again, if you don't do it, you will be underproductive and get distracted by all this other noise and other people's priorities. So some final thoughts. And by the way, I'll pause for a second. Are there any questions anyone has? You can either raise your hand and I can turn on the audio and you can share it through audio, or you can just put it in the Q&A tab or the the chat tab if you have any particular questions. If not, you can send a short note afterwards, and I'll hang on for a few minutes at the end anyways. So final thoughts. You know, as we talked about up front, your achievements will be greater and you'll enjoy your life more if you make proper planning and replanning an annual and quarterly and weekly and daily discipline. It ain't rocket science, but it's a discipline to make you more successful in those 3 areas. And you go back to the Yerkes-Dodson Law, is that optimal performance is where there is high stress and high performance. But we need plans, and our plans for our work, self, and life to help us stay in that sweet spot so we don't get thrown down into the dark, deep side. Our plans help us to stay focused on what matters and not get caught up stuff that doesn't. And if we want to continue to handle more stress and pressure, we have to keep doubling our capabilities, our resilience, what we know and who we know. And we have to have time for ourselves in that self column if we're going to build that resilience. And the gift of time, you just saw, we spent less than an hour. We probably spent just about 30 minutes, and you drafted a good start of your master plan and a pretty detailed or reasonably detailed version of your quarterly plan. So give yourself the gift of time. Find ways to carve it out. I mean, we've got CEOs that we work with that will book a half day or a day with us a quarter that I work with one-on-one to help them do it. So who's your coach? Who's your mentor? Who's your accountability partner that can help you do it so you carve out the time? Maybe it's your spouse or somebody else in your family. And to win consistently, you need consistent discipline to plan and replan and recalibrate your plans. It ain't rocket science, but the most successful people I know are the best at prioritizing their time on the stuff that matters most and finding a way to get it done. What's that 10% for you so you stay strong and focused? And again, mastering this discipline of every 90 days, reflecting and resetting, and you get smarter and build up more and more momentum. And you got to reset because things change, having SMART goals. And as Zig said, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you got to plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. And lots of people want to win, they just don't do the work. I've met people way smarter and way more capable than myself and some of the executives I work with, but they don't have the disciplines to set them up to perform as they possibly could. And as a result, they underperform. And then they make excuses and they feel bad, which is a shame. So my suggested application, what I recommend that you do, is finalize this master plan and your plan for quarter 3 and share it with your family. Involve your family in it. Maybe they do their own version. You know, if with your spouse or your partner, get them to do their own self column and to agree with you on the family goals so you're on the same page. It's much easier to do what you need to do for yourself if you're helping people you care about to get what they want to. So final thoughts. I met this couple. This is down on Bondi Beach when I was in Australia speaking recently, which was an amazing experience. And you know, they really made me think about life and what I really want. And you know, and there's this quote that I'm reminded of that's in my book by Hunter Thompson, the crazy writer. But you know, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaim, wow, what a ride. And that's what I think life should be. So my hope for you, and that this tool can help you to stay focused on it, is at the end of your life, and hopefully it's when we're 140, and we're sitting there on the porch of our house or sitting at a beach somewhere like this couple is, and we're sitting there going, you know what? I achieved these amazing things in my work. Wow, that was awesome. I achieved these amazing things with my family and my community, and I feel great about that. No regrets. And for myself, obviously I took really good care of myself because I made it to 140. So my hope is that you can sit back there yourself and say, hey, this was an absolutely amazing ride. So all the best to you. I'll stay on for a few minutes. If you have any questions, happy to answer any additional or send me a note. And otherwise, reach out if we can help in some way. All the best. Have a great rest of the day. So if you have any questions, please let me know.